Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway on this Thursday edition. Glad you're with us across the network, which includes the YouTube channel. We hope you'll like and subscribe while you're there by searching out OutKick and this great radio partner. As we broadcast live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Ross Tucker will join us, host of the Ross Tucker podcast. He will be with us in about 30 minutes. He'll give us his take on the best landing spot for DeAndre Hopkins, where there are multiple reports that the Patriots are interested, the Bills maybe, but not immediately, and much more. And then the rumor that he may want to play for the Texans again, which is kind of crazy. We'll get Ross's take coming up in 30. Plus, Armando Salguero joins us each and every Thursday. That'll be in hour number 2. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Happy to have you back for the full show today.
Yes, good to be back.
Great work yesterday with the NIL event you hosted with Livy Dunne, who is a sensation, I guess is how we would describe her.
There's no one else like
sensation.
Yeah, no one's pulling the money on NIL like she does.
Yeah, it got the event got rave reviews, and your part of it got rave reviews as well. So job well done there.
Recap is
good
up
to have you back
at the site, outkick.com. We'll have a couple of her points that were made later in the show as well from the Q&A session that we were a part of there with On 3.
But it's good to have you back.
Yeah, great to be back.
Good show to be back.
Chad, the Nuggets.
The Nugs,
they are
as I like to call them.
They're not back in the NBA Finals. They've made it to the NBA Finals for the first time. And all the pressure should be on this team. We mentioned this going into the playoffs. Game 1 tonight against the Heat, the 8 seed. And here's the top seed in the West that I don't think has really felt all that much pressure throughout this postseason. They're that good, but also kind of hidden away in the focus of the first part of the playoffs. And now they're facing the finals opponent that is a huge underdog against the most complete team in the association, which are the Denver Nuggets. I still don't think they're feeling the heat, pardon the pun. But Miami, I don't know how they match up with Jokic. They have a big size advantage in Denver. In Game 1 tonight, I don't think this is going to be a long series. I don't think Miami lays down. I think Jimmy Butler is certainly capable of taking over a game. But if the Nuggets don't feel the pressure, they should, because it is going to be a massive failure if they lose this NBA Finals against this Miami Heat team based on the matchup that we've seen. And I know they played twice, single-digit games both times. This is a Nuggets team that is full stride, fully rested. Meanwhile, the Heat have had to go the long, hard route throughout the postseason. And now they face Game 1 in what is going to be a great atmosphere and a Nuggets team that is a heavy favorite tonight in Las Vegas.
Well, and a Nuggets team also that's been around since the 1970s as an organization, moving over from the ABA to the NBA, that's never been to an NBA Finals. So that's the added pressure of, hey, this is uncharted territory for us as an organization. Never even been here. Let's capitalize against the number 8 seed. You get to your first finals and it's against a number 8 seed. I'm with you. I think there's pressure on one side or the other. It's definitely on the Nuggets. Now, having watched this team throughout this playoff run, they do a ridiculously good job of not showing pressure. They don't seem like a group that gets tight.
No.
They are one of the best heat check teams I've seen, and pun intended, now they're playing the Miami Heat. But Jamal Murray is a guy who's gonna put it up. And once he gets going, he is one of the best shooters in the league when he gets hot. But it's just they don't look like a group that's feeling any pressure. Hopefully that continues for the Nuggets going into this NBA Finals Game 1 tonight. Yeah,
they defended Joel Embiid well, but this is and how they defended the 76ers. But this is different with just how balanced Denver can be. Speaking of Colorado, you hinted at this yesterday, I believe, or earlier this week. The start of the season for Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes of Colorado. Not only it's going to be great matchups. They're facing TCU and Nebraska. Week 1 on the road at TCU. Week 2 at home, the home opener for Prime. Both are going to be on Fox. And these could be big blowouts with primetime on the sideline. They want Deion on the television. But this is a Colorado team that won a game last year. They're turning over not just the starters, they're turning over the entire roster practically, all the scholarship players for sure, and they're facing TCU out of the gate. A lot of change there too. That's not going to be a very compelling matchup. And then Nebraska under Matt Rule against this Colorado team in year one for Deion Sanders. Chad, I realize why he's on Fox and why it's the national game, but man, this could get ugly right from the headlines in September for the way the team is currently constructed.
Well, this is brilliant by Fox, and I'm not just saying that because they pay the bills. Get Deion early because this team's going to be atrocious. So if you're going to schedule him in a national window on Big Noon Kickoff, those first 2 weeks, the time to do it, because I do think people's interest will wane as we get into October with this team because I just think they're going to be that bad.
We're also going to find out about Shedeur Sanders pretty quickly.
Yes. So the over-under, Hutton, on wins for Colorado going into this year is 3, okay? Pick out 3 wins of this schedule.
Okay.
At TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State at home, at Oregon, USC at home, at Arizona State, at home against Stanford, at UCLA, Oregon State at home, Arizona at home, at Washington State, at Utah. That is not going to be easy for a team
tough,
with the
man.
numbers of, looking at it, Arizona's not going to be very good. They get them at home, maybe. Arizona State with a new coach, a possibility on the road. Colorado State, going to be that's always a tough game, tough rivalry game at home.
That's doable.
It's, again,
I'm taking the under.
If you're going to get prime in 2023 and putting prime in prime time, make sure it's early. And that's what Fox did here with that early window of the Big Noon Kickoff game because I think people will lose interest quickly with him and his team. Now, that's not to say they're not still going to make headlines, and the building of that program in his image is going to continue to make headlines.
And I think it will be a success ultimately.
But this year's team just won't be all that interesting because they're not going to be winning games or really competing, I think, against good competition this year. So,
but I also think it's going to be a bit of an unfair assessment of what he's doing there.
This is the
narrative. The narrative will be they're not ready for this at Colorado.
That's a dumb narrative.
It's a lot like the year that the Cleveland Browns were the talk of the offseason, right? And they go in with Hugh Jackson and all, and they lay an egg all season long. Baker Mayfield, was that 2018, I believe?
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about Colorado for the first time in a long time. You know, the images of the spring game.
Yep.
You've got all the talk about the transfer portal.
Call them Yellowstone?
Yellowstone on the sideline. You've got Deion Dutton on the sideline. I hope he wears the hat on game days. The point being, I'm not going to rush and judge based on the fact that right out of the chute, they're facing 2 tough opponents on Fox on national TV where the final score is not going to be pretty.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump out ahead of that on this show and say that it's foolish if you're going to judge Deion by on-field results this year. That this is going to be now he may do some dumb things on the sideline or say some dumb things or do something, and then we can nitpick that and say, okay,
sure,
is he ready for a job like this, the way he handled a certain situation? And that's all fair, and that'll be part of the commentary and the discourse of whether you like Deion Sanders or not in 2023. But that win-loss record this year has no bearing on anything. And it's not some testament to how ready they are for a job like this or for a Power 5 conference or any of that. Now, if they go 5-7 or something surprisingly better than we thought, then I'll say, wow.
Massive.
He did a lot better than anybody expected in year one with a not necessarily an awful group of talent, but a small group of talent. They have no depth.
More likely to happen in 2023. More than 3 wins for Colorado, or they join the Big 12. I'm taking the conference realignment.
Yeah, I think that's the more likely scenario.
By the end of the year. And look, the news usually comes out on July 4th weekend. That's what's happened the last 2 years with the Big Ten and the SEC. Chad, a couple of years back, we were talking Aaron Rodgers and the offseason saga. We're still doing that, right? He's finally been traded. He's now in New York. And the stories continue to surface from Green Bay. I don't know if this is the final airing of grievances, the final primary complaints that have been thrown out there, but The Athletic did a deep dive on a number of things that led to Rodgers not finishing his career in Green Bay. And one of them, which The Athletic is reporting and confirming, is that, yes, in fact, Livy Dunne, the agent for Aaron Rodgers, did ask for Brian Gutekunst to be fired. This is after they draft Jordan Love and the entire saga about whether or not Rodgers had enough say on the roster. And he wanted more control. He wanted to be consulted on what the roster was going to be constructed of and with who. Ultimately, he got that. He won that.
Yeah.
Then he ends up getting $50 million, which he wanted last offseason. He wanted to be the highest pay. He got that. And now he gets what he wants to, which is playing for a different organization, not playing for Brian Gutekunst, who played ball with him. Mark Murphy didn't end up firing the GM at the request of Rodgers and his agent. But this is, to me, rewinding a storyline and rehashing that detail that everyone knew was actually going on, even though Rodgers and even though he wasn't really talking that offseason, word was out that no, he didn't actually ask for Gutekunst to be fired. The reports are he did. But Gutekunst still has his job. And not only did they not fire him, Gutekunst ultimately got so tired, the organization got so tired of the offseason saga that they traded away the future Pro Football Hall of Famer.
This is a weird showdown,
yeah,
standoff, where
never ending.
Where I think everyone won. Gutekunst kept his job.
Yeah.
He relinquished some power.
Back-to-back MVPs.
He had to, he kind of swallow his pride with Aaron Rodgers for a time. But Aaron Rodgers got the control he wanted while a Packer, and then eventually got out when he wanted for a different opportunity. So it feels like everyone won, except
I think so,
maybe if you're a Packers fan, you don't really feel that victorious right now going into the season with Jordan Love. We'll have to ask Brooke during the break how she feels as a Packers fan about this team and the outlook moving forward without Aaron Rodgers. But
thumbs down.
I don't think that there's a lot of love being felt about Jordan Love and the Packers' current situation.
Hey, if it goes bad.
But just
if it goes bad,
specifically,
Caleb Williams is there.
Yeah, well, just specifically Gutekunst and Rodgers, I think both won the showdown in a weird way. Simply the fact that Gutekunst kept his job throughout all of this, which.
And then Rodgers got more say. And then
if this was the NBA, how would that have gone down if the star player said, get rid of the GM? It would have happened like that, right?
Immediate.
That's one of the positive differences for the NFL. I'm putting the check mark on the NFL side for that. And it doesn't happen as often in the NFL like you would see in the NBA.
And the player would also be consulted on whatever roster moves were being made. Like LeBron, MVP caliber players I'm talking.
Oh, I'm sure the GMs, the NBA, they have to go and they have to do a conference room pitch to the star players on who they're thinking about drafting or bringing in.
Did you see the quote from him on missing OTAs? And like he's still receiving ridicule over the fact that he skipped OTAs last year.
I have not seen it.
This is through a report at The Athletic. Same report. When I'm in, I'm all in. And if you want to ride with off-season workouts, I want MVP without doing off-season workouts. Like, was my commitment any less then? I'd say not at all. The way I come back to work, not just physically in good shape, but mentally refreshed, is the best thing for me to have the season I wanted to have during those Green Bay years. I think it's just a cop-out written to try and find something to disparage me about that, honestly. When you look at the off-season workouts and what they're really about, it's completely ridiculous. And he's going to hey, look at the numbers and tell me whether or not I needed to be there. Now, Davante Adams is traded to Las Vegas. They draft a young receiving core, and it took time. Christian Watkins, it took time for them to really gel. He was frustrated out of the gate with his young receiving core. And this is really the time of year where you can I mean, he's showing up in New York for a reason, right? He's a participant in those off-season voluntary workouts. Yes, I get it. They're voluntary. But from that perspective, last off-season, a bit different for me than the seasons prior, where he's had a discrepancy with whatever was going on with the front office. And he and Devontae Adams, I mean, when in doubt, just throw it up, and Adams was coming down with it.
Hutton, you know NFL players. I know NFL players. What percentage of NFL players would echo everything that Aaron Rodgers just said about off-season activity with the team, that it's pointless and ridiculous?
99% of them can't say it. 99% of them are nervous about losing their gig.
Yeah.
You know?
It takes an Aaron Rodgers,
but the quarterbacks are normally
40 years old, that has no worries about losing his gig. And if he does, who cares with everything he's already done? It takes him to say it. But you're right. Current players won't speak it. But in private, they're all saying this, that it's way better for them to go get ready in their own way, on their own time, and to get mentally refreshed going into a season. Now, there's probably a lot of people hearing that and thinking, man, I wish I could do that for my job. That doesn't pay nearly as much. It's just step away for an entire, 4 or 5 months and stay ready, but get mentally refreshed for it again. And I get that, but I think what we heard from Aaron Rodgers is reality for every player and what they're thinking about OTAs or anything they have to show up for during the offseason outside of showing up for training camp and getting ready for the NFL season.
Not a lot of news this week from the SEC spring meetings. No really finality to an 8 or 9 game schedule. I think we had always circled this week as having some type of clarity there. And I mean, the headline from the week was either Eli Drinkwitz talking about NIL or it was Saban discussing the path that we're on in the future of college football, but also saying from Alabama's perspective, they want to get rid of fans storming the field. Now, that's coming more through Greg Byrne than it is Saban. And to Saban's credit, he did say, quote, I never feel threatened. And you ask him because it's normally Alabama's the visiting team when the field is stormed, most of the time.
It's a credit to them. It's a huge compliment to him and his program that they get stormed so many times on the road.
Greg Sankey wants to, in this, finding a team $250,000 or a program or a university. Fans don't care about that. That doesn't affect them one bit. And I don't know how you stop this, but even Saban's admitting there's really nothing bad that happens with this. I understand, like, you have general counsel who's telling you, well, nothing happened this time, but next time, be wary. Someone's going to get trampled. The goalposts are going to fall on someone. Someone's going to go after a player. A player's going to go after a fan. I get all that. But this is like, you get rid of this, and you get rid of a big piece of college football that makes it fun.
Agreed.
Right? And even Saban is saying he never feels threatened while he's trying to get off the field. Now, he is the one guy that is surrounded by state troopers getting off the field.
Yep.
The players are not. And there's a big difference in that. So
none of the assistant coaches either, all the staff, it's
Chad,
just him.
I can understand the argument for why it's not necessary and the pitfalls with it, but no fan is going to care any amount of money, especially when you have your chancellor or president up in the box saying, I'll pay double for that moment at your home stadium. So it's not going away. In fact, trying to ban it, I think, only makes it happen even more. I mean, remember when Vandy stormed the field and it was a single file line?
Yeah, it was
all the way down the steps.
It was the most Vandy way of storming the field.
But even Vanderbilt fans would storm the field.
It was a polite field storming.
Yeah.
Now, I can see, and maybe this is kind of the parent in me also, I can look down there and see, man, there's a lot of potential for someone to fall and get hurt, and I'm sure people got injured, but it's not really reported when they went down there, and when those goalposts come down, you better get out of the way. And I see all those things, but you hit the nail on the head, Hutton. It's a big part of college football, and one of the things we love about college football is pageantry. We love the surroundings of the game. We love the atmosphere of it, and the potential in a big upset for fans to storm the field is a part of that atmosphere and tradition of the sport. I don't know how you get rid of it short of putting some sort of lining the field with a fence that goes up around the field that, like a retractable roof or the retractable field you have in Arizona.
Like a bridge going over the interstate?
You got something that goes all the way around the field and around the stadium, right? And it just moves up like a moat, like the bridge going down over the moat, but it just goes straight up with 2 minutes left in the game. And then imagine the ridicule, Hutton, if you are the team that raises the fence slowly and then you lose.
And then you lose the game.
A pick six or a blocked field goal or something. But you had to do it. And then the saddest thing ever is the guy hitting the button to lower it after the team lost. You make the preparations with the fence that raises, then they slowly have to lower it back down if their team loses.
Closing time plays as it lowers.
Heartbreaking fashion. Well, we were in Knoxville for Tennessee's win over Alabama. Can you imagine if before that they attempt the last field goal that won it, they start to raise the thing up and then it's missed and they, go into overtime and lose? It would be just treachery.
Coming up, Tom Brady reiterates he is done playing. We'll read into and between the lines on what he said. And where is DeAndre Hopkins going to end up? We'll ask Ross Tucker that question next on Hot Mic.
So let's see the video that John Morant was dumb enough to have posted. A guy said this: John Morant has more money to go anywhere in the world, and he chooses to go to Instagram Live. Now, John Morant is a fool. We know John Morant is a fool. It was two fools sitting down, Jalen Rose and John Morant, for a ridiculously idiotic fake interview a few months ago, all right? So John Morant does what every NBA player does. He hangs out. There's always a little guy. Usually it's a little white guy. But watch this video. John Morant's going to flash a gun. All right, you're that stupid, fine. But watch the little idiot driving the car as you watch the video that ultimately is going to cost John Morant a ton of money. We can't believe he's any dumber than he is. He's already the dumbest dude walking except for Dwight Howard, and we'll get into that. But watch this video. There they are. Look at this idiot right here. He's looking around like, hey, am I cool? Oh, he's dancing like a little, So John Morant's trying. John Morant looks like a girl. I hate to say it, but he does. Look at it. He flashes a gun, and then they put the thing down. Now it's been deleted. But, his little buddies look like, I don't know. They kind of look like the Bengals back in. Look at this little guy. There's always a little punk like that hanging out with a star. There's always a little punk. Shaq had a little white guy. I remember when we were filming Blue Chips. Everybody usually has a little white guy. But I'm telling you, this dude is about as hard as this cup of coffee. There ain't nothing hard. He looks like a girl. Seriously, if I were advising John Morant, you know what I would tell him? Cut your hair and get serious about your craft. Just change everything about you. Seriously, just change everything about you. You're a great player. You're a great talent. You have a great family, although those people have lost their mind as well, his family. But I'd tell you, get serious about your craft. Put your life into your craft. Forget about the other crap. Cut your hair, change your look, change your thing, change everything about you, or grow your hair longer. I don't care. But what I usually used to tell people, and I know I'm the old guy, but it always works, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. I've told guys in business, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. Now, well, that's racist. Hey, what does hair have to do with it? No, it just means that you're changing up what you are doing. It means you are getting serious about what you should be serious about. Because let's be honest, this guy's career could be over. I don't know. You get playing with a gun, next thing you know, you could end up in jail. Career could be over. So get serious about the one thing that works the most. Did you ever see Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Barkley? Did you ever see him with, something to distract? You never did. Do you ever see LeBron James with something to distract? No. LeBron James serious about his craft. He's not out there trying to put purple in his hair or put green in his hair or make his hair look like my mother's back in the 1970s where you had the beehive going like Morant. No, you never saw that. Of course you don't. I'm serious, you don't. You know, the girl that comes in the office with purple hair is never the leading seller in the office. It's just, she's just not. The guy that comes in with all of a sudden a face tattoo is not the leading producer in the company. He just never is. People that are serious about their craft get things done. People that know and understand, hey, look, we got to get this done. And if I'm John Morant, you can play kid, you can play tough guy, you can play a little child, you can play try to look like a girl, I don't know. You can have all that feminine energy that John Morant has off the court and your little effeminate friends off the court, but it's a man's league.
Sixth and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up in just a matter of minutes. Ross Tucker will join us, former NFL vet. We'll get his take on DeAndre Hopkins' best landing spot and his pick, his prediction for where one of the top receivers in the league will end up. Chad, one of the top quarterbacks, I say the GOAT in Tom Brady. He's not going to play again for the Las Vegas Raiders or any other team. And that's not just per sources. That is per the source, Tom Brady.
What is your message to those fans, the media, whoever it is, that's constantly concocting a way for you to come back?
I'm certain I'm not playing again, so I've tried to make that clear, and I hate to continue to profess that because I've already told people that lots of times, but I'm looking forward to my broadcasting job at Fox next year. I'm looking forward to the opportunity ahead with the Raiders, and we're in the process of that, along with the other different things that I'm a part of professionally and in my personal life, just spending as much time with my kids as I can and seeing them grow up and support the different things that they have going on. That's a very important job, and I take them all pretty seriously.
There's Tom Brady on Tom Brady and his future. He hit on a variety of different things there that had been circulating. Like, is he really going to join Fox and Fox NFL Sundays? Is he really going to start that contract, which is a 10-year deal, supposed to start in 2024? That's per Brady. And he's saying this because that was also a big question about maybe he's really not going to do that. Well, he's saying yes, he is, and he's saying he's not coming back to play for the Raiders. He's going to be a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders.
With one answer, Hutton, he was able to dispel a lot of reports that are out there, because you're right about the Fox deal. That's been a widespread thing where he is, looking into it, and people are saying he's maybe not going to be a part of it. Right. So that contract.
Well, and I mean, I was hoping, you mentioned this, you're like, I have a wish, a Christmas wish. We can hear you there.
Yeah, we've got you, Colin. We're hearing you in our ears.
Yes. But the Christmas wish that you had was, Brady, please come back and play.
Oh, yes. I was, especially for the Raiders. Of all teams, of all franchises, for Tom Brady to reemerge as a Raider for Josh McDaniels. I mean, look, that's the selfish me, football fan, wanting the huge storyline. I'd love to see that happen. But you could hear the annoyance in Tom Brady's voice as he was even answering the question, that don't know how more clearly I can state it, that I am done playing football, not going to happen. I'm looking forward to these other things. And You could tell he was annoyed even having to address it because he feels he's already addressed it. But there's reports out there to the contrary. But now we heard about it from the man himself.
Ross Tucker joins us. He's the host of the Ross Tucker podcast. And you can follow him on social at Ross Tucker NFL. Always great to chat with you, Ross. Hope things are well, man.
Yeah, everything's going great. Good to talk with you guys. I feel like I only see you at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Good to see you and talk with you this time of year.
We were mentioning yesterday, we were praying that Brady would actually consider coming out of retirement again. Now, just for the simple storyline of, he's wanting to buy into the Raiders, and then all of a sudden Jimmy G's foot is an issue, and here comes old Tom riding back in Vegas where it was rumored he wanted to play with Gronk, and instead of owning a piece of the Raiders, he owns the quarterback position. Are you with us? Were you hoping to get more Brady?
Yes, but for a very, very selfish reason.
Okay.
I was teammates with Tom in New England in 2005 and 2006. And every year when my daughters have their first day of school and they're like with new kids in class and they can tell those kids that their daddy played with Tom Brady, that buys me a whole year of being a cool dad again. Like I get a whole year out of that I'm a cool dad because I play with Brady. So I told them they're 11 and 9. I only needed 9 more years. But Tom is selfish and decided to do what he wants with his life as opposed to doing what's best for me and my relationship with my daughters.
Where is the best landing spot for DeAndre Hopkins? And ultimately, do you think it pairs up with where he actually will sign?
So I love situations like this because we're really about to see what he's made of, right? Like we're about to see what his priorities are because I'm quite sure Kansas City and Buffalo would take him. And in particular, Kansas City guys, since when can you go on the defending Super Bowl champs team in June and probably be the number 1 wide receiver playing with the best quarterback in the league? That just doesn't happen, but that's a very real possibility for him. The problem is they don't have a whole lot of money, which is why I actually think the most likely team right now for him is the Cleveland Browns. And here's why, guys. Obviously, he's got a really good relationship with Deshaun Watson. They were fantastic together in Houston. The Browns do have money. The Browns could use another receiver. They traded for Elijah Moore. Okay. They have Amari Cooper as a good player. They could really use one more. And here's the kicker. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach for the Browns, Andrew Berry, the GM for the Browns, they probably need to win this year. I mean, 3 years ago, they made the playoffs. Baker Mayfield won a playoff game in Pittsburgh. They actually had the Chiefs on the ropes. So my boy Chad Henne came in and got the job done when Mahomes was hurt. But the last 2 years haven't been good. Back-to-back losing seasons, haven't made the playoffs. Now it's like, okay, we got Deshaun Watson for the full year now. There's no excuse. And we're paying him a boatload of money. We gave him a crazy contract, gave up all these draft picks. The Browns guys kind of have to make it work this year. And so it's kind of like when the Jets traded for Aaron Rodgers, right? Desperate times call for desperate measures. The Jets gave up all that for Rodgers because Joe Douglas, the GM, and Saleh, the head coach, are on the hot seat going into this year. They're going to make the playoffs now with Rodgers. They're going to get contract extensions. Same thing holds true for the Browns. I think the Browns are going to be able to offer DeAndre Hopkins a lot more money than the Chiefs and the Bills. And when that happens, guys, a lot of times players start to think, well, I think the Browns could do it. Like if they had me with Deshaun for the whole year, that O-line, we could win the whole thing. The more money a team offers a guy, the more they talk themselves into believing that that team has a chance to win the whole thing.
Doesn't it feel, Ross, like the Browns are kind of the forgotten team in the NFL in a weird way with all the talk of Deshaun Watson last offseason? If you just say, best quarterbacks in the AFC and start going down the list, you go a little while before you get to Deshaun Watson on that list. They trade for Zadarius Smith. They've got Myles Garrett on defense. DeAndre Hopkins specifically mentioned wanting to play with a powerhouse defense on a team also. What about this Browns team with or without DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, they're very talented, but I feel like it's just not a team that we're really talking about. So you've laid out the expectations being high for those guys to keep their jobs. I'm not quite sure what expectations are from the outside of the Browns coming into this season. Well,
what's fascinating about it is the last time Deshaun Watson played a full season, now that was 2020, but he was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
And I think the Browns said, you know what? We got to go against Mahomes and Burrow and Josh Allen. We either have a guy that can hang with those guys, or what are we even doing here? And so that's why they made the big move to get Watson. And it's funny because you're right. 1 year after the Browns were by far the most talked about team all offseason, now this year they're one of the least talked about teams. They're probably very happy about that, by the way. But you look at it, most people have them in dead last in the AFC North, which is why I think they're going to surprise some people. I kind of like their over on their season win total bets. Deshaun Watson cannot be as bad as he was at the end of the year last year. He's still a young man. I just don't believe that. Now that they have the full year with him, he's out there from the start. I think the Browns could really surprise some people, and especially if they got Hopkins to complement Cooper and Elijah Moore in the slot.
So, Ross, I thought it was common knowledge that Aaron Rodgers wanted Brian Gutekunst fired back in 2021. But now with the report from The Athletic, we know specifics about that. Was this the rare standoff where really almost everyone got what they wanted? Aaron Rodgers got the money, then he got out when he wanted, and Brian Gutekunst, he got to keep his job throughout this whole thing. What do you make of the standoff between the two and now where it sits?
Well, I always think about first? I always think, like, how fast would I have gotten cut if I ever said I wanted the GM fired? I mean, who says they want the GM fired and then they're the quarterback for 2 more years? Yeah. Like, I mean, they're on the team for 2 more years. Think about how good you have to be.
If you wanted MVP at quarterback, Ross, you could have done it.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
You could have done it.
And you know what's really funny? Like, in the NBA, they would have done it. The NBA, they would have fired the GM. Like, those guys can go like this and get GMs fired. I don't know that I would say, on some level, I think everybody got what they want, right? They wanted to win a Super Bowl or at least get to one. I think Rodgers, I know he did not want to go out on these terms. Kind of interesting, isn't it? The way Brady went out from his career, probably his worst year of his career, across the board, wins and losses, the way he played. I never wanted to see Tom play like he did last year. It was a bummer for me as a former teammate of his. And then Rodgers, to lose at home in the last game of the year with a playoff berth on the line to the Lions, I mean, that's a bad way for it to end for him in Green Bay. So it certainly didn't end the way he wanted it to. And he is funny because I've never seen anybody that goes so out of their way to say that they don't care about what's being said about them, but always knows what's being said about them and feels like they need to, Ian Rappaport, Schefter don't know anything about me, or like he calls the guy back from The Athletic to give his side of the story. It's an interesting dichotomy there. Like, to me, you can't really have it both ways. You can't say you don't care and then make it that clear that you read every word, and when you have a chance to retort, you do, right? But that's the way Rodgers is. The honeymoon period is alive and well in New York. We'll see if that continues a few weeks into the season. Right now, everybody's getting what they want in New York. I know that because I mentioned earlier, I think the GM and the head coach are getting contract extensions, and I think Woody Johnson's selling a lot of season tickets and a lot of luxury boxes, which is what he wanted.
Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You can follow him on social at Ross Tucker NFL. MyFrontPageStory.com. Ross, you say this is the best gift ever. Why?
Well, so we talked about it at the Super Bowl before Valentine's Day, if you'll remember. And so now we have the next big holiday coming up where nobody knows what to get their dad for Father's Day. Literally nobody knows what to get their dad for Father's Day. And I know for a fact, everybody watching or listening, your dad loves the newspaper. I don't know a single dad that doesn't love the newspaper.
So true.
Get him a story written all about him. Let your dad get the front page treatment for once. Think about this. You and your siblings talk to a writer for, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. They write the most unbelievable story about your dad. Looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper. It's framed. It's beautiful. And I know most dads don't cry. I'm just telling you, your dad will probably cry when he reads it. Like when he reads the quotes and thinks that you hired some writer, which I guess you're doing, to write this story about how awesome he is as a dad, he will cry and he'll tell you it's his favorite Father's Day gift ever. I'm just telling you. MyFrontPageStory.com, MyFrontPageStory.com.
Chad, you're looking for a reason to cry on Father's Day, right?
Usually, it just takes certain movies. Maybe I watch Field of Dreams to get the tears going. But now, if my children may be a little young to pick this out, but I may be sending some links as a suggestion for this. I'm actually going to the website right now, possibly for my dad, Ross. So this is a great idea. I love it.
Honestly, it's awesome. Nobody really knows what to get their dad. And what I like the most about it, probably, it's framed. So they hang it up in their house. But anytime you visit, anytime you go, to me, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. My mom is 70. Well, I shouldn't say that, but my mom's 70 something. And you go to her townhouse, everybody that age has a townhouse. It's right there in the family room, dining room, kitchen room, whatever they call that, all in one room. It's right there. Proof that my sister and I love her.
Ross Tucker, always great. Appreciate the time, man. Let's catch up again soon.
Of course, fellas. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Check out the Ross Tucker podcast as well. Always entertaining, packed with info and opinion.
Really cool idea for Mother's Day or Father's Day. But
I know what Chad's getting.
$50, $49.99 or $99.99 for Front Page Plus. It's actually a pretty solid idea. I'm sold. Ross did a good job with the pitch.
Maybe it's going to be a parting gift from Skip Bayless to Shannon Sharpe, who's out on Undisputed. We'll discuss that next.
It will not hang in his foyer, that's for sure.
This is Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? Is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up. Quit littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Diana Rossini says the Patriots are highly interested in DeAndre Hopkins. We will ask Armando Salguero about that report coming up in about 30 minutes. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on.
Another forgotten team, the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
That's another one I put on the list of not getting a lot of buzz about that Patriots team going into this year. I think Mac Jones has a big piece of that.
A lot of teams not buzzing originally as originally thought for Hopkins. It sounds like teams are kind of waiting to see what the market's like before jumping headfirst, diving headfirst in.
I even read somewhere where they're not ruling out a return to the Texans.
Yeah, that's out there today too.
Yeah,
that would be a money grab, right?
Yes, and probably he really likes it in Houston type thing, like the city.
Also, I realize like he's been in Arizona. It's a bad organization. Texans, where he was traded from, bad organization, top down. Now they've restructured a bit, but still, I don't know how he goes back to Houston after saying that was a priority for him.
Would be odd given his stance against the franchise.
Chad, I don't know if we could say we saw this coming because Shannon Sharpe's leaving undisputed with Skip Bayless on FS1. The buyout has been agreed to, reported by the Post. And look, this, I guess, stems from the Damar Hamlin day after show, where during the Damar Hamlin collapse on Monday Night Football, Bayless is tweeting, like, how can you cancel the game? You got to get back out there and play the game. And then Shannon Sharpe went on the next day and said he wished that Bayless would take down the tweet, would have deleted the tweet, which Bayless said no. And then Shannon Sharpe got upset for being interrupted. You never let me finish, you always interrupt me. Marcellus Wiley, I believe, came on the show shortly thereafter and said, like, yeah, you can see the friction is going to be more than just tension. There's a breakup coming.
Yeah, there were issues. You could feel it in the room, the tension between the two. Now, Shannon Sharpe has since liked a few tweets today.
Okay.
He has not confirmed anything, but he seems to be confirming some things through his tweets that he's liked. One tweet that he liked reads, their relationship got progressively worse over the last 2, maybe 3 years because Skip fought for him to be on that show, but I feel like Skip couldn't stand Shannon succeeding without him, and that's when Skip was taking pot shots on air about Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe liked that tweet. Another one that he liked says, FS1 keeping Bayless and losing Jenny Taft and Shannon Sharpe is like a music promoter keeping Weird Al Yankovic but getting rid of Lady Gaga and James Brown. He liked that one also. That would lead you to believe that he's being forced out or his contract's not being renewed with FS1. So I guess stay tuned for an official announcement. But there's been nothing official regarding Shannon Sharpe. The reports are that he's stepping aside or he's being asked to leave or something's going on. We talked about it at the time, Hutton, and I just felt like, I get that, you're upset with someone, but you got to show up to work. My whole thing with Shannon Sharpe was on a day like that.
Yeah,
that's a
Tuesday.
big day for your show. Yeah. After that, like you can't because you're mad at someone's tweet. You show.
But since
on
then
the show, I feel like that was probably that's not the way I would have handled that, and that's the way most people in media wouldn't handle it that way.
It's more than just the Damar Hamlin thing, because by that Friday, Damar Hamlin was released. Right, he was transferred to a different hospital, or we got word that everything was made a turn for the better. Right, and since then we know how things have ended in a very positive way. And also since then, Shannon Sharpe's been on the show. He's staying on, according to reports, through the NBA Finals, which could go through June 18th, I think. But maybe not. They start tonight. It could be over in 4 for all, based on the way Vegas
Shannon
feels.
Sharpe's probably hoping for a sweep at this point.
Maybe.
So he can get out.
Who would be good to replace him? Because they had been – it doesn't feel like it's been this long. Their first show together on FS1 was 2016. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago that Bayless left ESPN and Stephen A. Smith on First Take.
7 years.
I know.
They've been a show.
Yeah,
that's a long run together.
Who would we mentioned Marcellus Wiley? He's got the connection with FS1 there.
The one I'm thinking about just friction.
Yeah.
Between two people that you want to create on a show like that.
Say it.
Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think Kendrick Perkins.
Scottie Pippen
and Skip Bayless. Yeah. But Scotty doesn't. Well, I guess I'm thinking more of to go in there and debate Skip Bayless every day. You got to be sort of a fast talker,
ready to go.
That's not really Kendrick Perkins or Scottie Pippen in terms of fast talker. But I think Kendrick Perkins would say enough things that would rile
Antonio
Skip Bayless up.
Antonio Brown has already put his name in the hat.
That would be something. Maybe you'd have to move it to HBO.
Maybe he goes with Lil Wayne. Bayless is tight with him.
Yeah, Lil Wayne would be a nice one. It does feel like it's almost time. Like I immediately think about an African American ex-athlete.
Yeah.
To fill the spot of Shannon Sharpe, but this would be a good opportunity to go outside the box. That would certainly be one. But someone from entertainment, a comedian, if someone I think about Jay Moore, who's a stand-up comic turned sports guy. Someone like that would be different to go against Skip Bayless.
The other host that I think would be great for what they do is Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
For what that show is, Ray would come in prepared if he's all in. And again, he could debate anything with the same fire and energy that type of show is looking for.
He would bring the same.
It's the same
same energy as Shannon Sharpe.
Yeah, same energy as Shannon Sharpe, Stephen A., Mad Dog. That's what that show feeds off of across the table from Skip Bayless, who's going to do the same antics. Whether or not he actually believes half the stuff he says, I'm not sure about. Manufactured and some of it fake debate. But that's what pulls some numbers for FS1.
Yeah. Russell on the YouTube chat says Clay Travis should replace Shannon Sharpe.
Clay would crush it too.
He'd have to take a pay cut.
Coming up, Urban Meyer and NIL.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Got Armando Salguero coming up in 20 minutes. Looking forward to chatting with OutKick's NFL writer. A lot to discuss. DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and much more. Dalvin Cook and what's going to happen there with the Minnesota Vikings. That's coming up in 20 minutes.
We got some really good suggestions on the YouTube chat. Always, you can watch us on YouTube. Easy to watch there. You can interact with the show that way as well. But on who should replace Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed, the runaway winner in the YouTube chat is Draymond Green would be perfect if he stopped playing in the NBA. That he would be the immediate call-up for that job. Another wild card would be Richard Sherman.
Very
who
good.
I think would be really good.
That's very good.
At debating Skip
and
Bayless.
You mentioned Ocho Cinco, Chad Johnson.
And the other one I want to throw out there, Ocho Cinco.
That's a good example.
And you immediately, Hutton, said that would be a good one.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I like all three of those.
All three of those guys. So I'm looking at it from this perspective. Who's getting up at the early hours on the West Coast for that show every day, right? And we'll put the prep in. That's the three names immediately. I'm checking the box for that. Yes.
Davey during the break said, you backed the Brinks truck up for Charles Barkley, but I don't think Barkley would want to do a daily show that way. And based out of L.A. He's an Atlanta-based guy, and I just don't. But it's not that Barkley's lazy. It takes a different mindset to want to do a 5-time-a-week
with Bayless
television show with Skip Bayless. Yeah. I think Barkley likes where he is right now, and he's about to start a weekly show on CNN to add to what he does with inside the NBA.
Interesting legal battle is going to be taking place between the Holiday Bowl and the Pac-12. And it stems from the 2020 bowl season where UCLA pulled out of the Holiday Bowl last minute due to COVID-19. That's what they pointed to. And the Holiday Bowl alleges that the UCLA Bruins told them that only 3 players tested positive, but they still pulled out of the bowl game. They're suing for like $3.2 million in damages. But here's the interesting part of why this is happening now. The Holiday Bowl wanted to be reimbursed by the conference. There's a 25-year history here, partnership between the Holiday Bowl and the Pac-12. The bowl wanted to be reimbursed that money. And when the Pac-12 didn't do that, the Holiday Bowl then withheld the payout for Oregon last year in 2022. So the Pac-12 said, hey, if you don't pay up, we're going to court, and the Holiday Bowl has raced them to the door of the legal battle. Citing this. This is fascinating. It's the Pac-12 ACC matchup, and the Holiday Bowl is trying to get $3 million from UCLA and the Pac-12.
This came at a time, too, where you just got carte blanche if you just yelled COVID-19 into the ether. If you said that as an excuse for anything, you got to get away with it.
NC State was the opponent.
I believe so. I was going to ask, because I remember Dave Doran was upset.
Because they never had a 10-win season, and that would have been the chance to go for 10.
I couldn't remember if it was UCLA they were playing or someone else that backed up. There were a number of bowl games that didn't happen that year.
Like 4 or 5
because of COVID-19 issues with the cancellation or a team just backing out. But
Gator Bowl was another one that canceled.
This is a fascinating case because now going back in time and looking at that, this was the time where you could just say that, true or not, and get away with something you didn't want to do. Right? I mean, anywhere, any walk of life, you said COVID-19 concerns, you didn't have to do it. And that's what UCLA did. And now we're going back years later, and there's a lawsuit saying, you couldn't do that. In fact, you owe us money for this.
It's the timing of it, the 11th hour timing of it, and the fact that they just no-showed, right?
Yeah.
And they're citing the fact that they could have played the game, much like NC State was going to play the game. Dave, you're adding more on this?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the several other games that were canceled. Those were usually days in advance. We're talking
or the bowl game canceled, like the Music City Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes, but this was 5 hours before kickoff, and the issue was with the defensive line unit for UCLA, and I think they only had 3 positive tests, so
That's
they were
right.
just kind of going along like the contact tracing. But the other thing, just to look into this, is just the Pac-12's financial issues that they're already having. We know the TV deal that they're trying to get done is already an issue. So this just kind of adds more fuel to that fire of the financial woes that are hurting that conference.
Yeah.
And it also, I think, makes it maybe sooner rather than later that Colorado and others jump ship.
I think so.
Based on, I mean, this is just another one of those things. I mean, this is a paper cut compared to the gash of not being able to get a TV deal done, but it's still something else. And they're having to spend money on lawyers either way, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but they were threatening to do that if Oregon didn't get their payout.
It's a mess.
It's quite the move by the Holiday Bowl. Did not announce their date or time for kickoff, which would have happened, I believe, yesterday or the day prior.
And I do not blame the Holiday Bowl one bit.
No.
For being upset about this.
Chad, the Cheez-It Bowl is now the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Huge upgrade from a snack standpoint.
So
from Cheez-Its to Pop-Tarts. Not even close. Pop-Tarts.
Superior
far
food.
superior.
I'm weird. I like unfrosted Pop-Tarts more than I like Cheez-Its.
I'm with you.
I'm with you on the Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are further down the list for me on snack food. Pop-Tart in the morning, my go-to growing up.
People think I'm weird, Hutton, on how I consume my Pop-Tarts, but I put a little piece of butter right in the middle of each one of them and microwave them and heat them up and let the butter melt over it, then spread the butter over the top of it. And if you get the non-frosted cherry is my favorite to do that with.
Strawberry.
Oh, it's magnifique with a little butter on it. But people think I'm crazy when I do that because most people just put their Pop-Tarts, obviously,
in the toaster
and let them pop. Right.
Yeah, or I just
the popping sensation.
right out of the box.
Hence the pop.
I don't even need it warm.
You just go straight in.
Yeah, I just grabbed it on the way out to catch the bus growing up after feeding the cows.
I
didn't want to wake up earlier to have breakfast, so I just grabbed a Pop-Tart.
I've maybe done that, once or twice. I heard you talking about this, where you now have just trained your body to not want breakfast.
I'm not really hungry when I wake up.
Because as a kid, you didn't eat breakfast.
Yeah, I saved 10 minutes. I had to wake up at like 5:45 or something. The bus ran at like 6:15. Like I was the first stop on their route, I guess. And
when you had that bus route where you were on the bus the longest amount of time, that was the worst.
And my parents worked out of the county, out of 2-hour drive and a 1-hour drive for each of them. So on days where they both worked, I had to catch the bus. And I would sleep in an extra 10 minutes. I could wake up at 6, then go feed the cows, and then catch the bus and have the Pop-Tart in my backpack. So I would eat that on the way to school to save time. That's how lazy I was.
I can't even remember a time where I just went dry on a Pop-Tart. Just no heat, nothing. Just pulled a Pop-Tart out of that little plastic sleeve and started eating it. Never done that.
That's all you need. It gets the job done.
I'm telling you, butter, microwave, Pop-Tarts. That's how you go.
By show of hands in the studio, Pop-Tarts or Cheez-Its?
Let's go Cheez-Its first. We got
so
one.
Is it a landslide? Just one. Everyone else is Pop-Tarts. Here's the other question for me. Why does Kellogg's
know who's smart in the studio now?
Why does Kellogg's need to advertise Pop-Tarts? What's in it for? Like at this point, why do you need the Pop-Tart Bowl?
It's a good question.
Why does Cheez-Its need to advertise Cheez-Its? It's like Kleenex. It's a tissue. It's a tissue, but we call it a Kleenex. You can manufacture a different version of a Pop-Tart, but it's still a Pop-Tart no matter what brand it is because they own that lane.
Yeah.
I don't know why you have to spend money to advertise a Pop-Tart.
So there is a terrific special going on. History Channel is on all weekend.
For a bowl game.
It's the food that made America or something like that. And it's all about like...
it's a good show.
Yeah, there's a new batch of them now where the first one was like Coca-Cola and different things. But now it was Totino's pizza rolls and the start of that in the 1970s and these other things. But if you can get to the point where your brand is the food and it's just synonymous, like pizza rolls, that was Totino's calling it that, right? Eventually. It was Totino's frozen pizzas meshing with the guy who invented the pizza roll, and then it became the pizza roll, and that's what it is. I'm with you on Pop-Tarts. I think they just have an advertising budget, and they decide, well, we're going to spend the bulk of our money on this bowl game now, instead of other ways of
Well, see, I
advertising,
think
and they're going to use it one way or the other.
Like, I think it makes sense, like, if it's Valero, you're like, oh, what is that? You know, like,
Yeah.
but you kind of know what a Pop-Tart is, right? If you're sponsoring a bowl, if you're backing the bowl, it's to get name recognition and branding.
Well, how much
more branding does a Kellogg's Pop-Tart need?
Well, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, as an example.
Yeah, but that's
how
a
much
very-
more run do they get with the Mayo bath at the end of it for the winning coach?
Yeah.
You know, like that
But
is something
Duke's-
that we now expect and remember.
Yeah, but they're in a lane where they're competing against Heinz, right?
Yeah.
Or the brand of that. So they're putting their brand with the product. I'm just saying, like, Kellogg's owns this product. No
Yeah,
matter,
it's
it's like Mr. Pibb or Dr. Pepper. Mr. Pibb needs to advertise. Dr. Pepper doesn't need to.
Yeah. I guess it's toaster strudels. Your move now. What bowl game are you going to
There you
sponsor
go.
to compete with Pop-Tarts?
Too much effort. on the
What
toaster
is the
strudel.
Pop-Tart main competitor? Toaster strudels?
Yeah, Cheez-Its, apparently.
Yeah,
That's the bowl they're taking over.
True.
What are they paying? Do we know that? What is the Pop-Tart bowl pay?
I'm just gonna go on a limb and say too much. I think that when we hear the number, we're gonna say that is ridiculous that someone pays that money just to have their name attached to a bowl game.
You can, a T-shirt cannon. Instead of that, you can just throw out Pop-Tarts.
There's endless. I saw someone say that they should, like the Duke's Mayo Bowl, they should make the winning coach bathe in the s'mores creation on the inside of the s'mores
Okay.
Pop-Tart. You could have some sort of concoction they jump into, a vat of the s'mores filling of the Pop-Tart. Lots of possibilities.
Chad, always possibilities whenever you have Urban Meyer on talking about how to win, right? He has his layout, his top 3 or 4 things that he, feels is necessary to win at a high level as a head coach in college. Well, he was on with Dockich. He and Dan are good friends. And Urban Meyer is answering a question here about name, image, likeness, and about collectives, and how he would describe what collectives in college football right now actually are.
Because I'm genuinely curious about this because I don't know the answer. How did the term collective, or how did the collectives get started? How did it get started?
I don't know. And I'm not saying it's all that way, but from my understanding, it's a fancy word for cheating. I don't know, Dan. Once again, I was removed from that. So when I hear that word, I kind of cringe right now, and I hear the stories behind it. They're going to go to donors and boosters and ask them for a lot of money, put them in a big pot, and then decide who gets that money based on ability level coming out of, which is, I think it's 1A of the rule of NIL. You can't do that.
It's and here's the other thing, Urban. At least here in Indiana, I got these idiots. They're called Hoosier hysterics that get mad because I'm not giving money for it. I live my whole life not breaking rules, and I'm not all of a sudden. But my point is, it isn't even underground. It's out there. People talk about collectives, Urban. It's not even like a secret. It's public all the time.
Well, it's a toothless organization right now, the NCAA. They know what's going on. All you got to do is pick up the paper or talk to people in the business. And I know very closely firsthand that I had a buddy that was recruiting a guy, and he had it. It was over. And then all of a sudden, another school offered him $500,000. He went back to his collective and said, I need $500,000. They said, we don't have it. They lost the player. I don't know other than saying, that's not what the intent was.
There's Urban Meyer on with Don't At Me and Dan Dockich. Everything that he's saying there is not just completely BS, but coming. No. I understand the frustration behind the demand for the money, which is happening. But cheating it's not just another word for cheating. It's actually legal, and it's allowed because of the NCAA not stepping forward and leading the efforts to corral what is now out of the gate and unfenced.
Well, in collectives, it's not, yes, that does go on. Hey, I'm getting such and such money from this school. Can you help me get this? But collectives, the intent is they have business partners also. So you are asked to endorse their business partners and or show up to events that the collective puts on. It's not – I get it. I understand what he's saying. It is pay for play, but it's also they sort of get around that by it's not technically pay for play. It's pay to show up at these events or pay to help out the collective. And then you playing for the school is what we ultimately want.
And you get paid a certain amount because of the school.
But we're not paying you for that. We're giving you $100,000 so you show up at these 10 events a year and you post these things on social media about our business partners and do this, this, and this.
Right, yeah.
So it's a workaround for it. And I refuse to believe that Urban Meyer, in all of his years of coaching at Florida, winning national championships, and Ohio State winning it all, that he never had a workaround with some booster or someone where guys were getting paid. I'm sorry, Urban. Maybe you didn't hand them the cash, but don't play dumb and naive with me. This goes on at every level of major college football.
All of a sudden he's Dabo?
I don't know specifically that he is a quote-unquote, this word cheater in sports and college sports. I don't know that he is that.
Right.
But I can guarantee you that things happened at Florida and Ohio State. One thing that happened while he was at Florida was he harbored a serial killer in Aaron Hernandez and let the guy have about 15 strikes while on campus. That certainly didn't help his development and not really facing punishment, continuing to play while at Florida. And lives were lost because of that. So give me a break. I mean, come on, dude. When he left coaching the first time, when I really started to get irked by Urban Meyer was when I watched him on, I think it was ESPN at the time or wherever he went initially. And he had the audacity to sit there and be as pious as possible about everything. Oh, this is a coach that doesn't have discipline with his team or doesn't do that. Did you see the police blotter while you were in Gainesville, Florida with your guys? Have you seen some of the issues that you've had? It doesn't all fall on the coach, but also don't leave that situation and then come back and try to preach to everyone about discipline and what you do with your team and this and that. I mean, give me a break. It's just too much. Urban is too much at times. But now what he's saying here, I can understand.
It's unfair for the school that can't pony up.
He's mainly right that collectives are there to enhance the athletic department by keeping players there.
Urban would be coaching at a program that would be able to pay that.
If Urban was still the coach at Ohio State, he would be lockstep with their collective.
Yes.
This is
or any collective, any team.
Yeah, he would not, and he would pull a Nick Saban if he was getting outbid by Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He would go on the speaking circuit and he would petition everyone to help out with the collective because they're getting beat for players because of the collective somewhere else. So I just with him, it's difficult to buy.
Aaron Rodgers is the king of New York. That's the story at OutKick.com from Armando Salguero. He joins us next on Hot Mic.
So Jake Bird is a reliever for one of the worst teams in baseball, the Colorado Rockies, who are just horrible. And apparently this middle reliever who was called up for called up to the big leagues for the first time this year. So he's toiled and worked his butt off. Decided he was going to pull a little old school, going to date myself, Al Hrabosky, and challenge and act like an idiot on the mound because he got an out. He did that against the Phillies. And in doing so, Bryce Harper took exception and went basically to the Rockies bench and said, let's fight. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I love, I don't know. I just love stuff because in baseball, there's a lot of fake tough guys. There's a lot of fake tough guys who talk the game, and then there's the tough guys are actually the guys that don't talk tough for the most part, like Pedro Martinez or Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan never said anything. He just threw 107 and put it in your ribcage if he didn't like you. Pedro would knock you on your ass at the drop of a dime. But I love that. I love guys like that. I love guys that are real and authentic. And Bryce is clearly a leader. And I since the day I met him I think I met him when he was like 12. It seems like his first year in the big leagues. He's always been a guy who's been vocal, but he plays the game and he's good. And the other stuff is the chromey stuff that's the modern day game and what they love and all the things that go with that. But the guy plays hurt, plays as hard as he can. And I think he gives it everything. And I loved it. I thought it was a great thing. I thought it was a good thing for the Phillies, who need a little kick in the ass. And then there was he got ejected. Bird got ejected. Rockies won the game 4-0 to avoid a sweep. But none of that stuff matters. That's kind of the thing that you I don't know about rally around, but it just cements a guy's position in the clubhouse. Zach Greinke became just the 5th player in Major League history. And please understand the significance of that. There have been, 100 and probably 40 years of organized professional baseball. When somebody does something that only 4 players have ever done, unique is not really the right word. I don't even know what it is. It's excruciatingly rare. But Greinke struck out his 1,000th different career player. So he struck out, only 5 guys have done this. In the list pretty much makes you understand. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, and Nolan Ryan are the only other players ever to strike out 1,000 different hitters. Not 1,000 hitters, 1,000 different hitters.
And the only guy on that list that he's similar to is Maddux.
Right. Well, and if you know anything about Zach, he's been Maddux-like since he got to the big leagues.
Right.
And he talked about, I think, his approach. Fascinating story too, by the way. And as a father of someone who raised a kid with Asperger's, meeting a professional athlete with Asperger's it's exactly what you expect. The guy is laser focused beyond belief. And as a parent of an Aspie, I met him. Well, I don't know if met him is the right word, but I ran into him at an event in Arizona, and he was exactly what you'd expect. But a phenomenal career. I think probably a Hall of Fame career too. Always love Thursdays at this time when we get a chance we go seaside. At least today we do. With Armando Salguero, OutKick.com, enjoying the perfect weather.
So relaxing.
Time to talk some NFL headlines and more. Armando, good to see you, man.
Whew. It's hot out here on the ocean. It really is.
No breeze coming in today. No ocean breeze today. Just
no ocean breeze. Staying out of the water. Sharks. So that's how it's rolling today.
Armando living like royalty down south. Meanwhile, it is good to be king, and the undisputed king in New York is who, Armando?
Well, it used to be Derek Jeter, right?
Yeah.
And that was without doubt. And then Derek Jeter, went by the wayside. and now it's Aaron Rodgers, without doubt. The dude has arrived in Gotham, 5 weeks ago, and he's been out, man about town, gone to Knicks games, Devils games, Rangers games. I'd mentioned the Nets, but they weren't in the playoffs. And this weekend rather, he was at the Taylor Swift concert. He's a Swiftie. The dude's a Swiftie.
Who knew?
At MetLife Stadium, and he is everywhere, and the paparazzi are everywhere with him, and he's been on the back page more times probably than any football player has a right to be in April and May, and so it's his town now.
And his team. What do you make of what they've done this offseason around Rodgers to contend for a Super Bowl? That's what this is about. Where do you put them in the pecking order?
Right. So I did a breakdown 1 to 32, or rather 32 to 1, so that people would actually get to the end of the worst to best teams in the NFL. And I believe I had the Jets somewhere around 10, 11.
Yep.
So they're a good team. They're a team that needs certain luck to fall their way. And by that, I mean they do need Breece Hall to get healthy and stay healthy. They were 5-2 with their leading running back healthy last year. And then he blew out his knee, and all of a sudden they were 2-8. And so that tells you that he's kind of important to them. Now, granted, Aaron Rodgers changes the dynamics of that defense, but with that change, it puts pressure on their two tackles, the right tackle, the left tackle, and both of those guys are question marks. At left tackle, you've got Dwayne Brown, and he's 37 years old, and he's coming off an injury plagued year where he played 12 games, but he was never really healthy. He's recovering from a rotator cuff surgery, so they need him to be healthy. And they need Mekhi Becton at right tackle, first of all, to accept the fact that he's a right tackle rather than a left tackle. And second of all, to stop, eating himself out of playing time and into injuries. He was at 4 bills, and by 4 bills, I mean 400 pounds at one point. He's only played 2 games since 2020. Think about that.
Yeah.
And so he needs to be healthy so that those two guys, the 37-year-old and the guy that's never in the lineup, can protect the 39-year-old quarterback who will be 40 in December. So talk about needing everything to go right so that you are in the playoffs in January.
Who knew that our segment about putting butter on Pop-Tarts was a perfect segue to Mekhi Becton talk of the Jets. Armando, when you see DeAndre Hopkins available now for any team, he's out there, ready to sign with someone. What is the best landing spot for him, in your opinion? Where do you think he ultimately lands, and do those two come together where you think he may end up at the spot you think he should end up at that's best for both sides?
So let's go down the list of some of the teams that have been mentioned in connection to DeAndre Hopkins. The Jets are out. They're not in this thing at all. They like their wide receiver group. Robert Saleh said as much yesterday, and they're not going in that direction. They can't afford it anyway. So they're out. The Buffalo Bills would like DeAndre Hopkins as a number 2 and a help to Josh Allen, and it makes sense there, but they don't have the salary cap space initially anyway. And this is going to be important, because does DeAndre Hopkins, is his mindset one that, hey, I've been paid a lot of money in the NFL. I want to win a championship, so I want to play with a good team that has a good quarterback and a good chance to win the Super Bowl? Or is his mindset, I need to get paid maximum dollars, and whatever team wins that raffle is the team that gets me regardless? If his mindset is about winning now, Kansas City, Buffalo, maybe, obviously he has a thought that Cleveland might want him because of his ties to Deshaun Watson. If his mindset is money, 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 which I don't, that's his right, then he's going to end up with, a situation that's probably not as fruitful come January postseason time, but we'll get him paid a little bit more. And I got to tell you this. I don't think anyone is going to break the bank on DeAndre Hopkins. Those days are long past. We're talking here $5, $6, $8 million tops on a 1-year deal for him. In my opinion, based on what I've been told by people around the league, there's not going to be a $20 million, $22 million, $23 million contract for DeAndre Hopkins.
Not even Odell Beckham Jr. money.
I don't think he's that guy anymore. He was never really the down the field dynamic threat. He was always, he's going to catch 100 balls maybe.
Yeah.
And he's going to get you, 1,200 yards, but he was never the 17, 16 yards per catch guy.
What does he do specifically for the Browns? If that's the landing spot to reunite with Deshaun Watson, how does DeAndre Hopkins change that team's fortunes?
Well, it helps. Amari Cooper is recovering from abdominal surgery. So, that is a plus. He obviously has a built-in bond with the quarterback because Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins played in Houston together. So that helps. Look, he's going to take a couple of trips, and it'll soon be clear to him that everybody wants him at their price. And then it'll be up to him to decide who wants me at my price. That list is very short. And then it'll be up to him to decide, is that what drives me? Or is winning a championship and the possibility of that the thing that drives me?
And whenever he mentioned, Armando, the structure, the organizational structure, of course he's discussing Arizona, but also where he was traded from in Houston at the time. I have to think that doesn't include just taking the biggest paycheck and going back to Houston. When I've seen the Texans being mentioned there, I'm kind of surprised that name has even surfaced.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Same.
And moreover, it doesn't make any sense to me if I'm the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are going to be starting a rookie quarterback at some point this season, if not right off the bat, in C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is going to make a lot of mistakes. Why? Because rookie quarterbacks, when they start their careers in the NFL, generally make a lot of mistakes. And so do the Texans want to put Stroud in the same huddle with a wide receiver who's, a grizzled veteran at this point and is going to demand that his quarterback see the field, see everything, and more importantly than anything, see him and get him the ball? It doesn't, I don't see that as a good match, other than the idea that he played in Houston once upon a time.
Armando Salguero with us. You mentioned your team rankings, the big board, 32 down to 1. Can I tell you my biggest surprise? And I don't necessarily disagree, but based on where you have the Baltimore Ravens, you have them as one of the contending Super Bowl favorites on your end. I don't think the majority of those covering the league put the Ravens in that same category. And I think you had them 4th or 5th, maybe 3rd. I think it was 4th or 5th. And I was surprised to see Baltimore so high.
That's fair. And obviously, as with everything else, It has to do with luck and durability. If Odell Beckham, I almost said OJ, Odell Beckham stays healthy, who hasn't been healthy, by the way. If Lamar Jackson stays healthy, despite the fact that he hasn't been healthy, by the way, they're not going to be a whole lot. But even with Lamar Jackson missing most of December last year, they still won 9-10 games, was it? They're putting in an actual NFL offense this year, one that is designed to get Lamar Jackson to win from the pocket. I believe he can do it. I believe he's dynamic. And John Harbaugh, everybody knows, is one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL. And so if those things come together, why not?
It's June 1st. That is a significant date for contracts across the National Football League. You had the post this morning. Number 1 player to watch is Minnesota Vikings running back Dalvin Cook. Explain the money that can be saved for a post-June 1st release and why it's significant for 32 clubs right now.
Right. So his base salary right now is $10 million and change. And I say change when it's $200,000-$300,000. Okay. So maybe 10.4 million, let's call it. The Minnesota Vikings don't want to pay that for a running back. They've asked Dalvin Cook to take a pay cut. He has politely told them to go kick rocks on the pay cut idea. And so they've been trying to trade him. No one wants to pay Dalvin Cook $10.4 million in base salary. And that's what would be required if you're trading for the guy because you assume his contract. After June 1st, a team that cuts a player saves way more against the cap than it does if it cuts the same player prior to June 1st. And so if the Vikings cut Dalvin Cook now, they save $9 million against the cap, and it leaves $5 million in dead money. Whereas 2 days ago, it would have been a savings of $5 million against the cap savings, but it cost them $9 million in dead money for a player that's no longer on the team. The reason all of this is important is everybody in the NFL, all the institutional media is reporting that tomorrow or the next day, the Vikings are going to cut Dalvin Cook and do him a solid and let him go be a free agent somewhere. And what I wrote is, if they really want to play hardball, if they want to do what is really actually best for them, they should keep him up until and through training camp to see if someone other than themselves has some sort of extra need at running back. There are injuries in training camp, so maybe a team that isn't willing to trade for him now does come to him. And if they want, keep him all of the way up to the moment where they have to cut down to the 53-man roster limit. And at that point, Dalvin Cook as a free agent, his market will be, as a $10 million running back, practically zero. So they can make the point to him, hey, let's figure this out now. Take the pay cut, maybe take $5 million off, because if we cut you the day of the final cuts, you're going to be making $2 million a year instead of $10 million this year. And that's an $8 million pay cut, not a $5 or $4 million pay cut. If the Vikings are business assassins, they can do that, and it would make sense. I've seen teams that have done that to players, and it's worked. So it's up to the Vikings on how they approach this.
Armando, I want to go back to your team rankings. You can read it at OutKick.com. And I don't have a problem with this, just an observation.
I really enjoyed this piece, by the way.
I did too. But one thing that really jumped out to me was your 27th ranked team, the Los Angeles Rams. And I just thought, wow, they won the Super Bowl not last year, but the year before. It was that quick, right? Yeah, they won the Super Bowl, not this past one, but the year before. And how the mighty have fallen off a cliff quickly when you think about that team. Is it surprising to you how quickly we've gone from, bleep those picks to, we need some draft picks. We need some higher draft picks now. We'd like those picks back.
They're in full-on reset with the exception of their quarterback and Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. Outside of those three guys, Jalen Ramsey, he's no longer there. He's with the Miami Dolphins now. Bobby Wagner, who came last year, he's back in Seattle. Floyd is gone.
Leonard Floyd's gone.
Yes. Their offensive line is really not a whole lot better, if better at all, than last year. And they got Matthew Stafford killed last year. And then they got the next guy killed last year, to the point where Baker Mayfield, who was, on Carolina, he was on Carolina one day in December. He was on the Rams the next day. And that week he was playing. So they went through some quarterbacks. Allen Robinson, that experiment failed. The team that won the Super Bowl, that team doesn't exist anymore. They have the same, mascot. They play in the same stadium. They're wearing the same colors and uniforms, but that's not the same Super Bowl team anymore.
Armando, let's go off the beaten path a bit here, but it's right down your lane. What are the chances the Miami Heat win the NBA title?
Better than 3%.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is ESPN gave the Heat a 3% chance to beat the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the Heat took that 3% and knocked out 3 consecutive wins to start the series. And granted, they survived that series. Guess what? That's what a finals is supposed to be, survival. Yep. Except for obviously Denver, that they rolled. But the point is, that team, the most impressive thing about that team is they lost on an improbable, crazy, controversial play in Game 6 at home. And walking off that court, they weren't dejected. They weren't downcast. They were pissed off. And they wanted to start all over again right then and there. And the reason I know that is Eric Spoelstra said, let's go right now. We're ready.
Yeah.
That's what he said in his press conference. So they come out in Game 7 in Boston, and they wipe the floor with the superior, talented Boston Celtics, with all of their championships from the 50s hanging from the rafters and championships from the 80s hanging from the rafters. Guess what? The Heat have a few championships hanging from the rafters too, and they've got Pat Riley, and they have arguably the best culture in all of sports, not the NBA, all of sports.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Yep. And, this is their 7th NBA Finals appearance since 2006, which was their first. They've won Game 1 on the road throughout this entire series. The Nuggets are unbeaten at home during the playoffs. It's an interesting matchup for Game 1 tonight.
And they didn't have a single gun flash at a strip club.
Not one.
All year. Not one gun.
No.
0 guns
They were
flashed
able
at
to
strip
stay
clubs
over in
this
Denver
year,
and had no issues.
It's the small victories sometimes.
True story about the Heat. You just mentioned they won their first championship in 2006. I got married in 2006. I was on my honeymoon in Israel. And I would wake up at 3 a.m. to watch the Miami Heat
That's
play.
awesome.
I don't even remember who it was that they beat, for the championship with Shaq and Dwayne Wade when he was normal. It was like I'm in Israel on my honeymoon, and it's like, honey, get me the remote. And of course it's in Hebrew, the telecast. So all I know was a dunk by Shaq.
Yep.
That's all I know.
That's all you needed to know.
Language.
It was
A dunk by Shaq.
you beat the Mavs in 2006 in a 6-game series.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, great stuff today, and as always great at OutKick.com. Love having you on, man. Have a great week, rest of the week and weekend.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you.
Armando Salguero there. Coming up, a segment we will call At Least You Tried. We're not big on participation trophies, but we've got some examples of people who maybe deserve one based on these massive fails. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you for Hot Mike. Hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel. Search out OutKick there. Hit the subscription button. Join us in the chat. Give us a thumbs up while you're there. Also, give a thumbs up to this great radio partner if you're listening right now across the OutKick network. Chad, a segment that we're calling At Least They Tried. Think about this as which of these two deserves a participation trophy? One place, if you're searching for me, that I'm not likely to be found is in a gym. So I can't be critical of what we're about to see here, because at least she tried. There's a woman who falls down on a treadmill. Her leggings get caught, and an all-time epic gym fail while trying to save herself. This is caught on camera, and it's an all-time fail.
The best part of the video is the woman that's walking at a slow pace across from her. And I've never seen that in a gym where it appeared like they're facing each other. Normally, like, everything is, and maybe that's a mirror that I'm missing here, but she's facing her and she has to get off her machine to go.
I love this so much.
Wander over and then runs back to her spot once she sees that she got up. Oh, she's up. I'll head back to my machine now.
Like, they have the guards on like the escalators, going up the escalators with like the looks like brushes or whatever.
Yeah,
that's to keep your a dress from getting caught in like this happening on an escalator. That's essentially what happened to this woman, where the leggings get caught and she's caught with her pants down.
Off goes the pants. And then the woman that was coming to help her just said, nope, you're good. You got this.
And then, a scene from Grand Theft Auto or Dukes of Hazzard, your call. But police are already making a traffic stop. And this is a cell phone footage or body cam footage. There is a truck on the side, and a car barrels through off the ramp of the truck and hurdles it on the opposite side of the interstate. That almost looked like it was like the driver meant to do that. Reportedly, they survived this. But it was like a Dukes of Hazzard / Grand Theft Auto, where the truck bed, like the tow truck that would like haul a couple different cars to a car dealership, right? It's down.
Yeah.
And the car barrels through, hurdles the truck, and then
use it as a ramp, but
goes through the median and flips.
I'm confused why the truck is set up that way on the road.
Well, it looks like they're about to tow a car or something, because there's already a police stop happening, and it's almost like they put the bed down to pull the car that they're going to tow up the ramp, but then there's no car there, thankfully.
But it's almost like they didn't even see a car in front of them. They're just cruising along on the interstate at a high rate of speed, and they hit a ramp.
Participation trophy to me goes to the woman in the gym.
She was getting after it. She was sprinting. That was not a slow pace. She was
How do you
jogging
react?
at.
How do you react to that? Luckily for her, there was only like 2 or 3 other people in the gym. You just play it off like, oh, no one saw this, or do you just like tuck your head and head home for the day or back to work?
I mean, she had underwear on.
And,
it's like a swimsuit.
The face burns on the cheek. She also gets dragged down the conveyor belt there.
It looked painful.
Really bad. Hey, the 49ers have their quarterback, and it's not the current leader in the locker room. That's next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Thursday edition. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us. Hope everyone's having a great week. Hopefully the week is flying by for you.
Show's
based
flying
on
by.
the Memorial Day on Monday. Short week, always great. You can visit us whenever, long weekend, short weekend, whatever it might be. 6th and Peabody, our location, with EHOP Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up.
Weekend starts on Thursday here at 6th and Peabody.
That's right.
That's where everything, business really picks up starting Thursday.
And then ends on, Wednesday?
Yeah. Basically what we're saying is it's always the weekend here at 6th and Peabody. Always.
Yeah, coming up, we discussed Brock Purdy and Trey Lance and the San Francisco 49ers quarterback situation, which is not a controversy out west. There is controversy out west in Nevada with the trans rights bill that has already been written and received bipartisan support. And then there was an amendment added to it where a hearing was not held that adds in, and which passed by Democrats, adds in the fact that Nevada high schools and their athletic boards, their school boards, if they don't allow trans athletes to participate in their sport, female, male, whatever they wish to participate in, that those schools and those school boards can be fined $5,000 per day for which trans athletes are not allowed to participate in the biological sport, non-biological sport, I should say, for the state of Nevada. and this can be vetoed by the governor, which has not happened yet. But it's a complete opposite approach to the story that's happening right now in Connecticut, where there's a lawsuit that's been filed by former high school athlete Chelsea Mitchell, who is considered the fastest runner in Connecticut during her high school track days. And she's stating that there are 20 races where she didn't win because she was competing against a biological male. She's joined with 3 other females who are citing the fact that they had things taken away from them and opportunities taken away from them because they were forced to compete against biological males. The quote is from the Post, the 2 athletes, she's citing 2 athletes over the 20 races. The 2 athletes took so many opportunities away from biological females. Even though there were only 2 of them, they took 15 state championships away from other girls. There were 85 girls that were directly impacted from them being in the races. When colleges looked at me, they didn't see a winner. They saw a 2nd or 3rd place. I wasn't a first-place finisher, and I think that's what really hurt me, because she's citing the fact that she didn't get the same attention from colleges based on the fact that she wasn't winning the races that she would have won. This is not new for Chelsea Mitchell. She's already made this argument in court months ago, December of last year, and the Second Circuit ruled against it, and now she's about to have the argument reheard early next week.
It's a curious case to follow because will it lead to more sweeping rules and regulations around sports?
But like
and dividing
this is the example, right, that Nevada should be looking at, and they're not.
So Nevada's, I looked it up. Nevada's, I believe it is Nevada because I'm a big fan of the show Veep, and they always correct everyone who says Nevada. It's Nevada, apparently. Never knew that. But anyways, until I watched that show. Joe Lombardo's the Republican governor. He is a former law enforcement agent and a former Clark County sheriff. I think he's going to veto this. I would think, being a Republican, being former law enforcement,
and he's vetoed some gun laws that they tried to pass there too.
Because the answer to someone who doesn't allow biological men to play against biological women in school is basically to bankrupt the school system.
Yeah, $5,000
$5,000 a day. No one can afford that.
Yeah.
In schools. So you're going to remove public schools. You're going to, basically revoke private schools that decide to do that. I don't. That's just such an odd rule put in place in law. $5,000 a day fine. So I would hope that's going to get vetoed. The Connecticut case, though, let's see how far this goes because
it didn't go very far in December.
Yeah, it's going to have to. I mean, if it goes anywhere, it could lead to something where we see more states get involved and have some form of regulation in regards to this because, as we've stated a million times, it's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, makes 0 sense, and you can point to the science of it, biology, as to why it makes 0 sense. Chad, I understand why the 49ers are publicly stating Brock Purdy's their guy and their starter. I saw what happened in the playoffs. I saw whenever he took over, the team was very good. Trey Lance is it's just a peculiar case because Purdy can't practice right now, and Trey Lance is coming off injury, and just like last year, he's running things during the offseason. He's their guy until Purdy comes back in, although we don't really know the timetable because in this time of year, Chad, everybody's ahead of schedule. Everything's on schedule in injury recovery.
Super healing is going on.
But I find it interesting, and look, it's fine to be optimistic, and things could be ahead of schedule for Brock Purdy and the elbow. And I don't think he had Tommy John surgery, but it was, I guess he could have had that. Point being, what if he's not ready to go? And it's a similar situation to what happened last year where Trey Lance is the guy. They're openly saying he's not. It's Purdy's team. But Lance is needed to start, and then actually, he is the quarterback that Shanahan went all in with, that John Lynch went all in with. But they continue to reiterate that Brock Purdy is the leader in the clubhouse. for the starting position of the San Francisco 49ers.
They gave up a lot to move up to number 3 to draft Trey Lance.
It's June. Like, it's not August.
You
know? It's interesting.
They've
got Sam Darnold. Again, like, it's Trey Lance wasn't traded, right? You're right. They gave up a fortune to move up and get him.
To move up to 3 to pick him. And I'm sorry, but if Brock Purdy can do that good of a job, I refuse to believe that Trey Lance healthy can't do that or better for the 49ers within that offense. It is the one team in the NFL that may be quarterback proof. And they're proving it every single year.
Maybe.
And their roster, you just need a functional guy at quarterback, and they can go to NFC championship games doing that.
I believe in thinking about Trey Lance. So he played one game in 2020 at North Dakota State. If you go back to the games he's been the starting quarterback, he's only since the end of the high school year, I think he's only started like 19 games. It's below 20 games career. If you go back from the time he graduated high school
from college to the
now.
NFL.
And that is such a small window.
Yeah, that's nuts.
To evaluate him. And he's played in how many games over the last 3 years now? Is it 3? He's appeared in 4, I think.
He played the entirety of the Bears game to open the season, a loss in the rain this last year, and he got injured in game 2, right?
Yes.
So,
and then Garoppolo came in.
That would have been 2 starts, but didn't finish the second start in this past season.
It is a peculiar. You're right about the quarterback proof label. That will be the narrative there. And they are a really good team.
Yeah,
and you know the other thing?
Maybe Brock Purdy is the better option, and it's a no-brainer for them.
I like what we've seen 7 games from him, and I know it's that's only 7 games, but it's not like you have a lot to compare with Trey Lance either, you know? And the fact that we've seen so much of Sam Darnold is why we're not mentioning him. So it also, defeats the argument of, well, need to see more. Well, not with Sam Darnold, we don't. He's a good backup now.
Yeah. I think he's a really good backup. I would put him the top tier of backup quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's not a starter.
At this time last year, we were watching Trey Lance courtside for the Warriors in the NBA Finals. And now it's Brock Purdy's team. Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts. And I just maybe Purdy is the guy and he's just better and everyone had him wrong and pegged wrong in the draft and all of that. Or maybe, just maybe, the 49ers, it doesn't matter with the rest of their roster.
Well, and they're saying, by the
functional
way, that
quarterback can win there and win big.
He could be back by training camp. Could be. I think that would be ahead of schedule. They really don't know yet in terms of how his elbow is recovering from surgery. And there are quarterbacks that don't come back very well. I think there's only one example. I'm trying to think. There was a veteran QB, maybe in Buffalo, that had Tommy John surgery. And he lost the zip on the football.
Was it Rob Johnson?
It was Rob Johnson.
Yep.
And he was just not the same guy. Didn't spin it the same way. That's another thing to watch with Purdy. Was he a 67, 68 completion percentage guy last year? And they won. But it will take something off for a guy who could not even attempt a forward pass in the playoffs.
And the story for the New York Post comes up when you look at Rob Johnson's career, and he flamed out a year and a half after Tommy John surgery in an attempted comeback with the Giants.
Yeah, and just didn't have it.
33 years old.
It's not just an easy layup as a recovery. Now, Purdy, I don't think, had the Tommy John surgery. I think that was like a worst-case scenario. But it doesn't mean that he's going to come back and be the same quarterback that we saw at Iowa State or last year in the postseason. I hope so, though. It's a great storyline.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Chad, is this Dad of the Year worthy? Check out this video of a father helping avoid injury.
That sheared in half.
Oh, look at our cameraman capturing.
Watch him. Oh, protected his kids.
Broken bat.
Big league.
Broken bat with a hot dog in his mouth, I believe, beer in his hand. And the sheared bat is batted away by the father
Wow.
Otherwise, it would have hit the kid sitting next to him.
Yeah, that's a pretty natural reaction. The good news is he was paying attention, because the only way that a dad's not doing that or putting their arm up to protect something from hitting their kids is if he's not watching the action. So he had a good eye on what was going on.
This is I'm surprised there are not more issues like this with the splintered bats.
Yeah, well, also, the fact he saw it, because usually you're just watching the ball. So if you're watching the game, you watch the ball, and when that bat splinters and flies, you may not see it because you're watching the play or wherever the ball went or wherever it was fouled off to. And so the fact that he saw the bat flying at his kids and reacted that way, great reaction time.
Monty Williams resurfaced quickly. We mentioned yesterday the NBA likes to recycle coaches around the league. Monty Williams fired by the Phoenix Suns. He's now the head coach in Detroit. Step down. I mean,
yeah.
By the way, Detroit approved that they have set the dates for the NFL draft. Just tying that in. They made that official at the end of April of next year.
Detroit has long been called the Phoenix of the Midwest, so he's got that going for him.
Monty Williams, good coach. And
I'd say a step down in terms of weather and locale also.
Yeah, but also like with the way the Suns are positioned, the Suns, after getting fired to go to the Western Conference Final, the Suns were they in the Western Conference Final twice with him?
Well, they made it to the finals one year and lost to Milwaukee.
And then I think another
and
time.
And then I think he got to the Western Conference Finals maybe another time, yeah.
Now they're positioned with Kevin Durant to be next year's version of the Denver Nuggets. The pressure. We will be talking a lot more about the expectation level for the Phoenix Suns than what we have with the Denver Nuggets.
And the Nuggets aren't going anywhere.
No.
Right,
but
so I mean, if they win this title or not, they're coming back.
But you've got the former MVP in Durant,
or they're going for their first title.
It's strange to me that the former MVP in Durant and the expectations that it will be on the Suns, and then you have the two-time back-to-back MVP in Jokic, and it's just kind of like, they're the one seed, they're good. Can they close the door? They better slam it against the Miami Heat.
You know who we're not going to be talking title with? The Pistons. The Pistons.
I don't think so.
Where Monty Williams went.
Yeah,
I don't think they're not going to be in the mix this next season.
What do you think about the Saints? John Gruden was brought in to help out and give advice to the Saints coaching staff on installing the offense for and catering it to Derek Carr. Reports are the NFL has had zero issue with this, with the Saints bringing in Gruden. I think this is a sign that if Gruden wanted to, he could get back into it. As a consultant, as a coach, as a front office, whatever he wanted to do, the Saints are saying that the NFL had no issue with Gruden helping out.
But would they have an issue if he was hired full-time from someone?
No one even mentions Gruden. It has been way off the radar.
When I saw the story, Hutton, and this is how fast time moves with scandal, whatever the scandal is of the day, that I had to look up and see, how did he lose his job? Oh, that's right.
The leaked email from 10 years prior.
Because of the Washington lawsuit that came out, and they fired him or early in the season. I think it was in October when it happened, the season he was fired. But how quickly we forget. Will the NFL just forgive and forget and now move on and allow him to coach again? We'll see.
Is the lawsuit active against the NFL? Gruden, because he was claiming that the NFL leaked those emails, right?
Yeah, he was going to sue them.
Yes. Is that still
the NFL did leak it. Someone did.
Oh, it was either that or Snyder that did it. On Tuesday, it was earlier this week, Dennis Allen, of course, ties with Gruden, was asked why he brought Gruden in. This was last week when he was there. He watched practice, discussed the offense. Look, I mean, number one, we've had several coaches come in and visit. Obviously, John's a guy that's had a lot of experience with Derek. Derek has had the most success of his career under Gruden. And he goes on to say, and so we felt like bringing him in, having a chance to sit down, visit with him as an offensive staff. The quarterback's just getting to know some new thoughts and ideas that we might be able to implement. Meaning, like, what worked and what didn't with Derek Carr.
It's smart.
Absolutely.
Very smart of Dennis Allen to do this.
And it should pay. I mean, they've invested a lot in Derek Carr.
Yeah.
And they have a chance to come out on the other side of the Drew Brees career with a guy that is looking for a fresh start, and I think is going to play okay, given just surroundings.
They should win that division.
Getting out from underneath the umbrella of the Raiders.
Yeah, and I think they should win that division with their roster. And now with Derek Carr, and that's a weak division, I think the Saints are the class of the NFC South. So anything you can do to help the quarterback is always smart. But bringing in John Gruden, which people can say whatever they want about everything else with John Gruden, the man knows offense.
Yeah.
The man knows the quarterback position. And he knows Derek Carr specifically. Great move by the Saints.
Well, and Jameis Winston is still there. Hard to believe. And he's saying he still has the skill set to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Gruden's there for Carr, not Winston. Right?
No. Yeah.
And look, at this point, the ship has sailed for me on just Jameis Winston starter. No. Backup. Good backup. There are not many good backups in the NFL. Not many quality starters in the NFL.
He's in the Sam Darnold category.
Yes.
He's in the Marcus Mariota category. They're backup quarterback. They're high draft picks that have phased out. We've seen what they are now, and they're really good backup options for a team.
And he's back. He's been searching for a starting role, but made the decision. He's not disputing what we're saying. He's just saying, I still believe in my skill set, because he decided he wanted to be back in New Orleans. They brought in Carr, and he said, hey, I'm just looking for opportunity. I'm grateful every chance I get. He's saying all the right things, but Winston's the backup. He made the right call. And there are plenty of guys that make great money that stand on the sideline now. Winston can do that.
He's going to have a good second act to his career as a backup, as a solid backup for teams. I feel that way. And I feel the same way about Sam Darnold and what he's going to be in San Francisco. Solid backup.
There's at least one more year for Livy Dunne at LSU. And the gymnast and influencer and the example of name, image, likeness. What's next for Livy Dunne after college? I asked her that yesterday. We'll play her answer next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number one pet peeve, telemarketers. Number two pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number three pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number four pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your shit up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying, even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Coming up,
Got some very disturbing news during the break.
Yeah.
People are going to have to find a new chicken sandwich now, apparently.
Soon it'll be blue jeans.
Soon we're going to be on a hunger strike.
Yeah.
No food, no drink, nothing.
All men will denounce beer, blue
Nothing
jeans.
is acceptable.
Yeah.
Blue jeans. I mean, you take my Chick-fil-A sandwich from me, we got problems.
Hot Mike with Hunter Withrow rolls on. Also, Al Pacino may have some problems at his very old age.
83 years old.
83. Wait until you hear the story coming up. Chad, yesterday I was able to thank you again for holding the fort down for me.
No problem.
Hosting a series with Livy Dunne as part of the On 3 Elite Series for Name, Image, Likeness. They On 3 Sports, they brought in the top 25 or so college athletes in the entire country to hear from experts on name, image, likeness, collectives, best practices, do's and don'ts, suggestions, advice, and where we're headed in all of this. The expert for name, image, likeness is Livy Dunne. And I brought up on stage, and you'll hear from her and her mother, Kat, that I'm looking out at the crowd, and you've got Dylan Raiola, who's out there, quarterback, 5-star, Georgia, class of 24, many others that, 2-3 years from now could be on the cover for the new version of what we loved, NCAA football from EA Sports, right? She's done that, becoming the first collegiate athlete to make the cover for and pose for Sports Illustrated. And she dives into being the only person on the planet that can be the first to do it. And her mom also jumped in with reaction to the criticism that came her way from the New York Times. First collegiate athlete
to be a part of the swimsuit edition. I can tie that in because of the football players in here. NCAA is coming back in 2024. We've got the top athletes in the country in this room for On3 and Elite Series. You guys could be on the cover of that video game. To me, that is the equivalent, growing up with that game. That's the equivalent for you as it would be for the SI swimsuit model. And trust me, I bought both the SI swimsuit model and college football. I love both. But you are the only person on the planet that can give perspective on the window of opportunity to be a cover for a monumental global brand that is recognized as brand acknowledgement. And Sports Illustrated called you to be a part of the swimsuit edition.
Yeah, I mean, Sports Illustrated was a dream come true for me. But I feel like it's something that I manifested more into my life and worked really hard for, rather than it just came on a whim. I mean, I put in the hours with social media and they saw that, and I felt as though they saw the message I was trying to say in my social media post, that, you're more than just your sport. And our vision aligned, and they reached out to me, and it was just such an honor, and it was so fun to shoot. And I feel like all these gentlemen have the same opportunities.
Sure. I mean, it's wide open. And where did you guys go for the shoot?
Puerto Rico, yeah. We went to Puerto Rico. It was in the middle of right when my gymnastics season started. And they usually take 6 days to shoot. And I obviously can't take 6 days off during the beginning of my season. And my coach was like, take a day off. So I went to Puerto Rico and I prayed for good weather, and then I shot, and I came back to school.
I think it was interesting too that Sports Illustrated, they were interested in her not just because of her athletics, but because she was like willing to put herself out there, and she was putting out a message like supporting women in sports. They came to her after like the New York Times had kind of written a hit piece on her, and she was willing to like use her social media platforms to stand up for herself and stand up for women in sports. And so I think that message too is that like, don't be afraid to use your platforms now that you're going to have this spotlight to put out a message and stand up for the things you believe in, and then these opportunities will come to you. Brands respect that.
I like that's her mom at the end of saying, like, the New York Times and the hit piece that came out,
the hit piece was basically
about the post on Instagram.
This is what's wrong. Yeah, this pretty girl making all the money isn't what's right.
But that's exactly the reason why
opinion piece.
That's exactly the reason why name, image, likeness is there, because she is a brand that she would not have been able to capitalize on, unlike any other profession at her age, right? Collegiate athletics just didn't allow it. And in her case, she has turned this into a massive success where she posts something, it's going to be a hit.
It's going to be seen by millions of people.
She partners with a brand. It's going to be a hit. 7 million TikTok followers, of 4 million on Instagram. I mean, the numbers just continue to rise. But I like what her mom was saying. It was like, look, athletes now have a chance and an opportunity. If you build your brand, you can profit from your brand. This isn't pay for play. This isn't anything that Saban's talking about in terms of a salary cap,
or anything Urban Meyer's talking about with Dan on his show.
No doubt. This is just
totally
straight
different.
Off the field, off the floor, off campus, job, career, brand. And this is why NIL is here and why it's a good thing. There are pitfalls to it, but she's the example of how you can profit off of a social media account, regardless of what it is. It's her account. It's not the university. It's not the NCAA. Otherwise, she'd have to wait until she's not competing in order to profit.
It's exactly why the rule is in place and it exists, is what she's doing. The ability to capitalize financially on her own name, image, likeness.
Yep.
That's the Livy Dunne story. I mean, people, you could not like it all you want. This is why the rule. This is the purest form of what the NCAA and what the government is allowing with this, with all the court sessions and everything else that led to it. Here it is. This is the extreme success story on Livy Dunne's side, but this is exactly the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It like you said, it's not pay for play. It is. She is finding a way on her own, through her own social media accounts, to make a lot of money because she's got a lot of followers while she's in college and participating in athletics. That's why the rule exists, is for Livy Dunne.
And the conversation continues. So she's going into her senior year at LSU. She's 20 years old. She has a year left, but she also has 2 years left, actually, because she still has the COVID year that she could use if she wants to. But at this point, what's next? After the collegiate career as a gymnast is over, what is next for Livy Dunne?
What is the key to continuing to grow your brand on the platform you have created and built? Because on one hand, we want to learn how you've done that, and then you want to maintain and grow. And I think that certainly your vision is much further than just Livy Dunne, LSU gymnast who's crushing it on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, this year has offered some really cool opportunities. I did Sports Illustrated. I did a music video. I was on Billboard New York, which is really cool. And I feel like to keep that going, you just gotta, like I said, be consistent and also look at your engagement on your social media. That's like something that I find very important with my audience, is seeing how they engage with my posts. And I feel like that's what brands look at as well.
Yeah, and being willing to show a little bit more of yourself than just your sport. I think that, the brands really connect with you as a person. So they like to see who you are and what your values are and what you stand for. So be willing to show that a little bit.
At what point, Livy, did you stop looking at how many followers you have? You have 7 million on TikTok. I mean, you know these, 4 million plus on Instagram. Like, if I reach 60,000, I'm happy.
I mean, my head can't even wrap around those numbers. That's just insane. I guess all the work I put in has paid off, but I don't know if I ever really looked at like the follower count going up. I just look at the engagement more and seeing how my audience likes what I post, how they engage with it, the comments, and who likes it, like the demographic of who likes my pictures and stuff.
For you, like when you saw the number continue to rise, at what point were you like, oh my God?
I mean, it's crazy. The numbers are huge, but I do see the side of it. Like, I do see the kid who like goes home and does it every day, and I watched her do it when no one was watching. So the interesting thing about building your brand is like now it's like, well, of course, Livy's gonna post because she's gonna get 1 million likes on this. But I remember the kid who was posting when there was very little engagement, and she would post 4 or 5 times and then look at which one performed best and tried to come up with a strategy about what type of content she wanted to post. So I kind of watched her do it when people were like, back in the day when people were like, TikTok's dumb, or
TikTok's cringy, because it was. It used to be like cringy. It literally used to be cringy, but I feel like being at the forefront of TikTok, kind of when it got popular and doing what was unpopular at the time, paid off in the end.
So where are we headed with TikTok, Instagram, Twitter? What are you leaning into now?
I'm really hoping to have my own thing, my own product one day. I'm not exactly sure what that is yet. I'm 20, but I don't know yet. But
so by 21, you'll have your own.
Yeah, I hope so.
How about that? The goal of having her own social media platform instead of just having a TikTok, Instagram, Twitter account. I told her off stage, I was like, instead of the blue check mark, it should be a Livy check mark.
Yeah,
for influencers.
She is headed places, and what she's going to be doing is making a lot of money.
Tons.
The way she's making a lot of money now, she'll continue to do that.
Chad, coming up, we will dive into the weirdest stories of the week. One of them is Al Pacino. We'll lead with that, with what he's been up to. But also politicians, councilmen, TV networks, certain things that men are bringing to a funeral. We have the weirdest stories of the week through Davey Hudson. That's next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
6th and Peabody, our location in Nashville, Tennessee, and across the great OutKick network. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. We hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can check us out at OutKick.com. All the great headline stories and great shows and podcasts available each and every day, whenever you need it. OutKick.com and on YouTube. Search out OutKick. Chad, was it Robert De Niro that recently is going to be a father for, he's like 70, is he 80 something?
He is, I want to say 78 or 79. Okay. I'll look it up. But yes, very recently he revealed that his, I think it's his wife or girlfriend is expecting.
So is now Al Pacino, who is 83 years old. He is
79, Robert De Niro.
Okay. The legend, Al Pacino, 83 years old. His 29-year-old girlfriend is pregnant with his child. Nice. Davey Hudson also joins us. This is the weirdest story I think we're going to hear. But
the photos of him and his girlfriend walking around like a museum together, looks like he's with his granddaughter. Like she looks like she could be related to him also. When you see her, it looks like I'm taking granddad to go see the museum. She's like walking him around like a frail old man.
There are not many things that Leonardo DiCaprio can list off of things he has not accomplished. This is on his list, apparently.
Give it time.
You know,
give it time. When Leo's 83,
also,
he'll be doing this.
Why?
It's almost cruel to the child because you are setting the child up to not have a father very long. I mean, you're 83. Like you're not.
What are you going to inherit?
I mean, let's say everything works out great and you live 20 more years till you're 103. Like this child is losing a father at a young age.
I mean, Pacino looks dead right now.
I know. But does the girl not look like it could be his granddaughter? Like,
any 29-year-old looks like his granddaughter.
Yeah. But, I mean, she actually kind of looks like him to me. Like, the photos you see, you would just see them out and you say, oh, that's cute. Granddad walking his granddaughter around. Then you find out, no, she's going to be the mother of his child at 83 years old when he's 83. It's wild.
That is
wild times.
That's weird, but not the weirdest stories of the week with Davey Hudson.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird. Weird.
All right, we enjoyed the fill in the blank version of this last week. I think Davey's bringing back the.
I like it.
I'm excited about it. I love playing the game show.
Yes,
we're just going to keep things rolling like they were.
Keep it fresh. Keep it entertaining. I love this concept.
We don't know these ahead of time, so let's roll with it. What are you bringing first, Davey?
All right, guys. The first one: a Rhode Island councilman resigns after blank.
I'm going to say a drug bust.
Resigns after Rhode Island. Resigns after impregnating secretary.
Wow.
I've got pregnancy on the mind.
You pulled that from Rhode Island?
This Al Pacino story. That happens a lot in Rhode Island. They're big on that. Big on that in Rhode Island.
I'm going drug bust.
That's pretty good, Hutton. It was actually, there was a crack pipe incident. You get that on them big jobs. The dude was passed out in his car. I've already forgot the man's name.
I have seen this photo. I didn't know that it was this story.
Yeah, Matthew Riley there. You can see him on your screen. This is in Cranston, Rhode Island.
It looks like Pacino. Dead.
I mean, he was out. The guy's like, you know what? Been going through a tough divorce. Decided, get a little high going. They also found a bag of cocaine on him.
Is that him right here? He's just looking at
that's
the
when they
puzzled look on his face.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't do it.
They pulled him out of the car.
I wasn't asleep.
They were asking him, it's like, what would your constituents think about this? And he's just like, rah. That's not exactly what he said, but he probably tried to make some excuse. The only good news I have from this is like he didn't go for the cycle. There was not a dead hooker in his trunk, so I guess that's the silver lining.
This is Cranston, Rhode Island, which makes me think of Breaking Bad.
It also makes me think of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Freda Felcher from Cranston. That movie takes place in Providence, is where it starts.
So did he resign immediately? Is it just him on body cam, just saying to all of his? constituents. I resign.
That's one if you got the crack pipe in your lap and you're passed out in your car, that you come out with just the cuff me. Cops are there. You just come out, both hands together, get in the cuff position. Go ahead, take me away. I did it. I did all of it.
This happened on May 15th. I'm not sure. I know he had resigned by the 22nd.
He could have used the cocaine before he passed out.
It's 11:42 a.m. and he's sitting in a salon parking lot, if I'm reading this right. You see this? The sign back there?
Yeah.
11:42 a.m. salon parking lot.
Gazebo Salon.
Yes. Yeah. Orchids of Asia Day Spa.
Yeah, great advertisement for Gazebo Salon. It's where councilmen go to get high and pass out in their car.
His DARE teacher's probably furious with him right now.
Next up.
Yeah, guys, next up, we're going over to the UK on this one, but we'll start off with the TV network was blasted for airing what?
Oh, it's in the UK?
Yes.
Porn.
You're going to say porn. I'm going to say something with Harry and Meghan Markle. And that's just, you gave it away based on the location of this.
No, Chad was right. It was a 15-person orgy.
Really?
Yeah, they aired a 15-person orgy on like Channel 4.
What?
So they, on accident, I'm guessing.
No, this is the name of the show. Is
it cable or is it like public access?
It's like Channel 4. So that's like one of their main channels over there.
It's like a network, I think.
I mean, it looks like a sleepover. It doesn't look like an orgy.
Well, who made this decision?
Like a pillow fight.
Well, the show itself is called Open House, The Great Sex Experiment. The fact this was going, pretty much the idea behind the TV show is to open up couples to things outside of a monogamous marriage.
New and exciting experiences.
Yeah, and two of the people were hosting a party. One thing led to another, and here we are.
Following
this
the
is
script.
like HBO's late night programming from 1992. They just made it over Channel 4.
Minus the grainy footage.
But it's on television, which is odd.
I don't blame people for complaining about this if it's on a main station.
I hear you. I mean, I remember when I was young, a lot of parents got upset when Nickelodeon was on. Their kid fell asleep and they woke up to Adult Swim. I couldn't imagine what it'd be if they turned this on, and this was the case.
This is enlightening some couples that are taking part in the show and enlightening a lot of teenagers all across the UK that tuned in for it as well.
For those expecting an update on the couples involved, I don't know if this helped with the monogamous situation.
Luckily,
or not.
Pacino wasn't there, Chad.
Yeah.
Have a lot of pregnant women.
That's right. You got a lot of kids coming out of that situation if old Al was there.
Very fertile.
And then our last one, as far as the game show goes, 80% of men have brought a blank to a funeral.
Okay, I've seen this. I've seen this headline, Chad, and it makes total sense when you hear what it is.
I'm going to say a shovel.
80% of men bring a shovel to a funeral?
It's a bold strategy.
The 80% part, I wasn't really a gun. I'll say a gun.
I've seen it. Condom.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, this makes sense because I think if you carry a condom, it's in your wallet, right?
Yeah.
And you bring your wallet into the funeral service.
Yeah, so this
right?
was...
at least that's where I'm thinking this factors in.
That's where mine was going with this one, where, I mean, if you look at 80%, they surveyed, I think it was like 8 out of every 10. Do some math, you can get that down to 4 out of every 5. But it was males 18 to 35 did this survey. I think there was like 2,000 males. And, they said to...
Where do these surveys come from?
It's a great
I've never
question.
been asked to take a survey like this. And who's to say we're not just making up these stats? Why is it 80%? Shouldn't a survey be like 83.4%?
Yeah, they could have just asked 5 people.
It's never,
right?
You don't round off. I can't go to the store and buy something for $4. It's got to be $3.97. Or it's got to be $4.03 to give me the change. There's nothing that's just even number like that.
Is there a standard for how many people are asked to make it a survey that's legit? Because like I said, they could have asked 5 people and 4 of the 5 said yes, and that's 80%.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an interesting
I do
bit
buy
of
it.
info because
I do
it's
buy
a
it
small
because
sample size.
You know, if you get your wallet on you, especially if you're the age group that Davey's mentioning, it's in your wallet.
Well, it's Will Ferrell from Wedding Crashers.
Well, I was literally going there. Chad Reinhold once said that grief is nature's most powerful aphrodisiac.
Yes, he did.
And he also was like, her boyfriend just died. Dude died in a hang gliding accident. What an idiot.
I love the nonchalant.
Honey, look, I'm hang gliding.
I'm dead. In that movie when he's like, I've been crashing funerals for a few years now, actually. You're crashing funerals now? Been doing it for a few years, actually, yeah. It's been very fruitful.
I don't know if this is a an example of how old we are, Chad, but Davey brought this story up, or this phrase up earlier, and I didn't know what it meant. Davey, ask Chad the same thing.
I still don't know what it is.
Well, to go into this, the headline just reads that Kim Jong-un goes full Big Chungus.
Okay.
I mean, I made that headline up, but so Chad, are you familiar with Big Chungus?
No.
So a couple years ago, Big Chungus was a meme that took over, and really all it is a life-size or a giant-sized Bugs Bunny from like an actual Warner Brothers cartoon from the 40s. And Bugs gets really big. It's pretty much just a quick way of saying, oh, that guy got big in a hurry.
Fat.
He's straight up Big Chungus.
Okay.
And
I've never heard this in my life.
There was a video going around where a brother got his younger brother a video game, and it was just he created this layout of like a PS4 game, but it just had the Bugs Bunny on the beginning. He's like, hey, I got you this. It's Big Chungus. And his brother's just like, what the hell is this? And it just kind of led from one thing to another to where a mom called a GameStop like, hey, I was looking to get Big Chungus for my kid. And then Reddit just took it and ran with it.
There should be a game for that.
And it's been fun. But the reason I brought it up, because Kim Jong-un, things are not going great with him, the supreme leader of North Korea. Spies are saying that he is now up to 308 pounds. They use artificial intelligence to weigh him somehow. I'm still a little concerned on that.
He hit a hole-in-one yesterday, too.
But, I mean, this guy's like 5'5".
Amazingly, he can still dunk also.
300 plus.
Pounds.
Pretty incredible there. But
300 pounds.
For 5'5". Now, they'll say he's 5'8", but we know that's not the case.
Meanwhile, no one else in his country eats.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, like, they want to be president
Sign
one
of power.
day. I'm like, why would you want to do that? You got half the country that hates you. Sign me up to be supreme leader of North Korea. That's where it's at. I mean, those people view you as a god.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they're probably going to try to take him out pretty quickly. His sister's doing some wheeling and dealing in the background, so we'll see what happens there. Word is she's even more ruthless than he is. But, yeah, things not looking good in North Korea. Granted, they've never looked good in North Korea, but here we are.
Looks a lot better in South Korea, that's for sure. Davey, great job. The SEC has voted. They will not be playing 9 conference games moving forward. We'll discuss what they're doing. They're playing 8 plus a required Power 5 opponent in the non-conference.
Wow. Who do you have in game 1 tonight?
Nuggets.
Same. Back at it tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow right here on the OutKick
Enjoy your chicken
Network.
sandwiches while you can, people.